Yeah, I know the title is a bit inflammatory, a bit rage baity. Look, disclaimer, physical activity in general is great. Even if you don't lift and you do some physical activity, huge thumbs up to you. However, lifting is the most efficient way to grow muscle, get stronger, build bone mineral density. And lifting can also help you get plenty of cardiovascular benefits, manage blood sugar better, and in general has some unique benefits that other exercise modalities don't necessarily offer, at least with the same efficiency. For example, engaging in resistance training alone can decrease your visceral fat even in the absence of massive weight loss. Additionally, building more muscle will also likely result in better blood sugar, even if you're not necessarily losing a bunch of weight. You may just lose fat by building muscle, as recent evidence has shown. But the main reason not lifting is dumb, stupid, call it whatever you like, is because of how little you need to not only get health benefits, but to also make appreciable gains in strength and muscle. And that's the crazy part. We're not just talking about beginners or older individuals with sarcopenia that can make great gains with just a few hours or a few minutes of lifting per week. Even the most advanced of individuals, even people like myself who've been lifting for 10 years, can get away with just a few hard sets per week and still make gains. And that's what blows my mind. Now take that a step back and apply it to the individuals who are not even lifting in the first place, and all the benefits they could be seeing from lifting with just a few minutes per week. We'll go over some of the science on how little you need to lift to make gains for both health, strength, muscle mass, and etc. And you'll see some of the data that I will share later in the video will legitimately shock you. Many of you, at least out there, who may not be familiar with how crazy the reality of things is. And mind you, I get this all the time. I get people, even lifters and non-lifters, that get familiar with the concept of minimum effective dose training, or at least the idea that you can make top gains both from a health and muscle strength standpoint with just a few sets per week. And the first time they're a bit reluctant. The second time they're a bit more receptive. But once they accept the idea and they also try it a bit for themselves, they always come back and they have the same reaction I have every day, where they're like, wow, why isn't everybody lifting? It's so simple, so straightforward, and you don't even need that much. For example, classic study led by the one and only, my beloved ex-supervisor and now friend, James Steele. For this study, essentially, we had access to data from a gym chain in the Netherlands whose business model is 20 minutes of resistance training per week, and they gave us access to over 15,000 participants for over 7 years. Now, what we saw when looking at that data, and we're talking about average individuals, not anything too extreme, but only 20 minutes of lifting per week. 20 minutes of lifting in a gym on 4 to 6 machines, sets of 4 to 6 repetitions to failure on each machine. Extremely simple. 1 set per machine per workout. So they would go in, do a set of lat pull downs, relatively heavy, go to failure, move on to the leg press, then move on to the chest press. An extremely simple approach to training without any requirements for technical mastery, anything too complex, yada, yada, yada. And over the span of a couple of years, 1 to 2 years, they saw increases above their baseline strength of roughly 40 to 50%. They were getting stronger for over a year, only doing 20 minutes of lifting per week. Keep in mind, those people were roughly in their mid-40s, early 50s, so they were also battling time to an extent, and they kept making gains. They saw a plateau after the first 1 or 2 years, but they didn't then see decreases in strength. They just saw their strength slowly plateauing, but still following an upward trend. That's extremely important. Now, take the average person or yourself, 20 minutes of lifting per week, and at worst, you're maintaining strength after a few years while still seeing some increases and probably gaining some muscle along the way. And interestingly, when we look at strength adaptations, even in trained individuals in the literature, we see that all you need in order to make appreciable gains in strength is about 1 set per movement or per muscle group per week. Even in powerlifters, in some of our own studies, we saw that with a handful of heavy sets per lift per week, so for the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, even experienced powerlifters were able to make meaningful strength gains. For strength, things are extremely simple. And the thing is that when we then relate that back to the health literature and how much lifting you need in order to actually improve your health, if you're just doing enough lifting to get stronger, you're likely ticking a few, maybe not all, but a few health boxes. So if you don't care about anything else, just go to the gym 20 to 30 minutes per week, lift some weights, machines only, whatever you like, hit most of your muscle groups, and you're done. However, if you do want somebody to do that for you, myadapt.com for the smartest coach in your pocket. Our app will cater literally to everyone, to the freak bodybuilding enthusiast who wants to absolutely maximize muscle growth and wants to focus on specific body parts, to the person who only wants to work out once every week or twice every week for as low as 15 minutes per session. MyAdapt is a smart coach in your pocket. It will do everything for you. It's extremely versatile. Even if you have no equipment available, it will still cover you. Otherwise, DRPAK.com if you want to work directly with me. If we look at the muscle growth side of things are still looking pretty solid for everyone out there. The latest and most comprehensive meta-analysis to date showed that just 4 fractional sets per muscle group per week are enough for appreciable gains in size. And the same was shown by a study from our own lab, where trained individuals, they did around a handful of sets per week per muscle group. They did a single set per exercise per workout, and they still made amazing gains even when not training to failure, even when they stopped a couple of reps before failure. So overall, this is not a "this is too good to be true" situation. This is reality. Most people out there just don't lift. It's not that people out there are lifting consistently and they're not seeing gains. Most people don't lift because they fall for that optimal illusion. They fall for the idea that unless they are going to the gym 4 to 5 days a week, unless they're working with a personal trainer, unless they're following some optimized training program, there's no point in going. When in reality, you can literally pick a few exercises you love and just do those. You don't need to have a strict program. You don't necessarily need to stick to specific rep ranges. Those are relatively minor things when it comes to just lifting to gain a good amount of muscle strength and improve your health. When we look at the literature on health, for example, and the relationship between lifting and all-cause mortality, meaning the death from all causes, we see that any amount of lifting compared to no lifting is still able to reduce all-cause mortality by roughly 15 to 20%. I can't stress this enough, and for those of you who have friends, family members, whatever, send them this video. The idea that you need to do a lot of lifting in order to make gains is BS. To take it to an even more extreme level, a recent study looked at the effect of 5 minutes of eccentric at-home training in healthy but sedentary individuals. We're not even talking about like training in a gym to failure with just one set. We're talking about literally something at home, not even training that most of us lifters would consider actual training. And even that amount of training was not enough to make any insane gains in terms of muscle growth and strength, but it still improved some of those markers, including some health markers and even some psychological markers, and that's 5 minutes. Imagine if you're consistently doing 30 to 60 minutes of training per week. And please, you do not need to overthink stuff. Rigid models, rigid programs, just follow basic principles. You don't need to do specific exercises, do any exercise that you enjoy doing. And for most beginners out there, focus on machines. You don't need to learn how to barbell squat if you don't care about a barbell squat. You don't need to learn how to do complex exercises. Sit on a machine that targets each body part, each major body part, each major muscle group, your chest, your back, your legs, and that's it. Push for a few sets per week, close to failure in whatever rep range you like. You don't even need to track things. Just make sure that you are pushing yourself hard, and over time, good things will happen. I have a minimum effective dose book coming at the end of not the year, but at the beginning of summer, June 2026. Keep an eye out for that. But overall, please, if you're gonna leave with anything, is that you just need to lift. The rest is not that important. Thank you so much. I appreciate you listening to my rant. MyAdapt.com, smartest coach in your pocket, will cover you even if you don't really care about maximizing muscle growth. And DRPAK.com for this guy to work with you, or for you to work with this guy. Dab in 2026, 2025. I don't even know what year it is, baby. We are freaks.